appealing to economic populism is not a purely left or right-wing political strategy, but rather merely the politics of everyday people feeling frustrated with or antagonistic toward those in power. Actually doing something about it, though, is not something the right is interested in. Those grifters like Blake Fart realized this with the whole one job should support a household talk. He's honing in on a pressure point like a pickup artist negging a woman's teeth or some shit and then promising to fix it. But of course, he doesn't actually want to fix it. Nor does Marjorie Taylor Greene or Ronald DeSantis for that matter. They're all variations of the same thing, even if they don't know it. They see a country that's deeply hurt and want to harness the frustration and anger as opposed to healing it. And that's why the ultimate solution is to create an environment where people like this can't thrive. You know, by actually fixing those problems. Improve the material conditions of those less fortunate voters by systemically restructuring the way we allocate resources to those in need, through like tax policy and pro-labor legislation, or something like that, because it sure feels like America is headed towards rock bottom. And that's exactly the kind of place where you either find salvation and strength, or go live in a yurt and give all your money to a dude from SoCal named Swami Chip who promises to clone you like in that bitchin' movie you love, but instead just steals a bunch of your sperm. Fucking Chip! So perhaps that's something the Democrats need to think about. What they shouldn't do, however, is the exact mirror opposite of what these candidates are doing, which is to focus on Donald Trump.
I'm Terry McAuliffe, candidate for governor, and I sponsored this ad.
What kind of governor would Glenn Youngkin be?
President Trump represents so much of why I'm running.
And like Donald Trump, Glenn Youngkin refuses to take coronavirus seriously.
Sweet dirty balls! Democrats are terminally obsessed with the idea that Donald Trump's endorsement is some kind of death touch for their opponent. The reality, at least in a place like Virginia, is completely the opposite. I know this might sound like Monday morning quarterbacking, since Terry McAuliffe already super lost the Virginia governor's race, but there's nothing that shows how out of touch the Democrats are than assuming everyone under them hates Trump like they do. And for the Democratic Party of Virginia to have put out this mailer linking Trump to McAuliffe's opponent Glenn Youngkin really seems like they were just doing his work for him. Like, did the Democrats actually purposefully throw this election? It's exactly the type of thinking that got Trump elected in the first place, by simply coasting your campaign on the promise that the other guy is worse than you. But whether or not you agree with his policies and ideas, Glenn Youngkin honed his campaign on specific issues like mask mandates and critical race theory, and made an appeal to Virginia's parents who are rightfully frustrated with getting their kids back into a normal school schedule. McAuliffe, on the other hand, made headlines for being on the opposing side of parents. Whether or not that's true didn't matter. Meanwhile, the only thing his party is making headlines for is slowly dismantling their spending bill, specifically shaving off the parts designed to immediately help average Americans. Even if it wasn't already an expected pattern of these races flipping to the opposition party of whoever was just elected president, yeah, fucking of course he didn't win. And anyone who isn't a disingenuous liar can see that, right?
How much of this is a message just to the Democratic Party that it's too far left? I mean, that if you're the squad, or if you're, someone who's been calling for defund police, or socialism or democratic socialism.
I wonder. Wow. Yeah, Anderson Cooper. Good question. Is the loss for Terry McAuliffe, who before the election was sure to win because of his moderate message, a sign that progressives have turned people off of the Democratic Party? Hey, no. That's the answer to your question, but it's sure interesting that we're going to once again use this as a way to push out the far left and maintain the status quo of the moderate Democratic Party, even if it means losing a bunch more elections. The media is doing backflips to try and get this weird lie across. Even when they actually circle a real problem, they can't help but to inject this weird narrative that moderates losing means we should prop up more moderates.
Their voters feel looked down upon. And I'm not talking about Republican voters looking down, feeling that they're being looked down upon. I'm talking about moderate to conservative Democrats feeling that they're looked down upon by pundits, by progressives, by other people who say that, who if they express a feeling that maybe the schools should open even if the teachers don't want them to, Maybe teachers should listen to parents more often when it comes to what they're hearing. This is from a Virginian. Maybe Joe Manchin has a point when he says $1.5 trillion or $1.7 trillion is a lot of money. Let's take our time with it. Let's not rush it.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. The parents who've been slammed by a pandemic for the last few years and can't afford childcare and want to get their kids back into school, I'm sure the first thing on their minds every morning is whether or not the infrastructure bill designed to help them is going to cost the government too much money. So in a country where the people are out of work, dying from a pandemic, extremely divided, and faced with racial and economic inequality, the Democrats are continuing their "we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas" approach. Instead of propping up radical or even somewhat progressive solutions, they're going to use the next 3 years to firmly plant themselves as the do-nothing establishment that a populist right-wing Trump type will easily stand up against. Though, to be fair and balanced, the next morning, Congress apparently flipped out about this and tried to put paid leave back in their bill. So maybe they learned their lesson for a fucking week. And so for the question of who of the people we've talked about will run, well, I guess just fucking pick one. They're all Trump variants, in both the Marvel Universe and coronavirus sense of the word. They all have a timeline where they could break through and easily harness voter support when the opposition is still spinning their wheels over this bizarre reluctance to accept drastic and progressive ideas that would actually help the American people. Or Trump will, just run and none of this matters because that's probably what's going to happen. But hey, maybe I'm wrong and the Democrats will find someone really good and savvy and competent and actually interested in fixing these problems to run in 2024. Shouldn't have looked that way. Shucks. Well, Trump DeSantis 2024, I guess. Huzzah. Sorry, this one was a bummer. Like all of them. Hey, thanks for watching that clip. Here's the evergreen end plate to ask you to like and subscribe. It's any day of the year where you are.